So, actually, we read this verse already, 39, 2 days ago. So we're going to go on to 40 and 41. Translation: O King, we, who are your adherents in all respects, shall therefore kill the Vedic Brahmanas, the persons engaged in offering sacrifices and austerities, and the cows that supply milk, from which clarified butter is obtained for the ingredients of sacrifice. Text 41. The Brahmanas, the cows, Vedic knowledge, austerity, truthfulness, control of the mind and senses, faith, mercy, tolerance, and sacrifice are the different parts of the body of Lord Vishnu. And they are the paraphernalia for a godly civilization. Purport. When we offer our obeisances to the personality of Godhead, we say, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. When Krishna comes to establish real perfection in the social order, he personally gives protection to the cows and the Brahmanas. Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. This is the first interest, because with protection of the Brahmanas and the cows, there can be no human civilization and no question of happy, peaceful life. Asuras, therefore, are always interested in killing the Brahmanas and cows, especially in this age. Kali Yuga, especially in this age, Kali Yuga, cows are being killed all over the world. And as soon as there is a movement to establish Brahminical civilization, people in general rebel. Thus they regard the Krishna consciousness movement as a form of brainwashing. How can such envious persons be happy in their godless civilization? The Supreme Personality of Godhead punishes them by keeping them in darkness, birth after birth, and pushing them lower and lower into wretched conditions of hellish life. The Krishna consciousness movement has started a Brahminical civilization, but especially when it is introduced in the Western countries, the Asuras try to impede it in many ways. Nonetheless, we must push forward this movement tolerantly for the benefit of human society. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Mukham Kutavachalam Pangunlang Hayategrim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Sigurum Dinataranam Vanshakapa Tiyabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giradhar Sivasari Gauravata. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Before I begin, I was instructed by Radhanath Swami. He wants to offer all of his respects to all of you. I spoke to him recently, so his respects to all of you. So here, we're seeing that these demons are actually pretty intelligent. They could understand. The Brahmanas, the cows, the Vedic knowledge, austerity, truthfulness, control of the mind and senses. All this is the body of the Lord, but they didn't know that actually He also has His own transcendental body. And they thought that by killing these things, then they would be able to kill Vishnu. So they're actually knowledgeable, but also very demoniac. Just like now we have the scientists, very knowledgeable, very intelligent, but they're also very stupid because they can't understand that there's a high intelligence behind this creation. They're thinking it's all by chance, Big Bang and evolution theory and all these speculations. So there's some very intelligent people that got a lot to be desired as well, as far as in the intelligence category. Whereas there's some that are materially not very intelligent, but very intelligent, just like Gorkashore Das Babaji couldn't sign his name, but he was very intelligent, very devotional. Actually, devotion is more important. This devotion for Krishna is actually what is most valuable, and therefore Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was very intelligent, extremely intelligent, took initiation from Gorkashore Das Babaji. And he was embarrassed. He didn't want to give initiation. You're such a great scholar, and I'm not. Who am I? But actually, he was instructed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was also very intelligent and very devotional, to take instruction and take initiation from Gorkashore Das Babaji. So this is real intelligence, is understanding that there's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we should surrender to Him. And here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, that the brahmanas and the cows are very, very dear to Krishna. So therefore they should be protected. Just like Krishna, he was a cowherd boy. He protected the cows. He liked the cows very much. So much so that there was one pastime where Mother Yasoda, she could see Krishna going out in the forest, and he's got his soft, delicate feet. So she thought, well, let me give him some shoes. And Krishna heard about this, and he said, okay, I'll wear shoes, but only if all of my cows also get shoes. And Krishna had a lot of cows, a lot of calves. Anybody know how many? 900,000. That's a lot of shoes. So she said, all right, never mind, anyway. So, yeah, Krishna is very, very fond of cows. There was that devastating forest fire in Vrindavan, and the cows were calling out to Krishna. And Krishna was calling back to them, and he knew all their names. He was saying all their names. And one devotee sent something to me recently of this rancher, this cattle rancher. He lived off of killing cows. And he married this lady who would go out to the pasture, and she would sing. And she had a guitar, and she was good. So the cows would come by and they would listen to her. They were her audience. And every day they would come and they would listen to her. And she started naming the cows. And her husband, the rancher, said, don't name them. Don't name them. But she named them anyway. And she started being affectionate towards them. And he said, I told you, don't name them. If you name them, you're going to become affectionate towards them. And she said, anyway. Kept on singing and, going out there. They became her pets. So, she decided that she didn't want to sell the cows to the slaughterhouses. She told her husband, I understand why you didn't want me to name them, because I'd gained some affection for them. Well, it's happened, and I don't want them to be killed. So I'll buy them from you. He's like, what? You're going to buy them from me so I don't kill them? And she became a vegan. And she had this whole group of people, of vegans, because she became famous. A rancher became a vegan. So she was asking for donations from the people that were vegans. If you can give a donation, I'll buy these cows so that my husband doesn't kill them. And she got like $30,000 donated to her so she could save these cows. And then the husband just couldn't believe this is happening. So eventually he became a vegan too. And, so much for the, cattle ranch. And that was finished. So interesting how. And I met one lady in the airport when I was distributing books. And I showed her that picture of how the Brahmana sees with equal vision, or the sage, he sees with equal vision, the Brahmanas, the cows, the dog eater, and like that. And she said, oh yeah, I'm a vegetarian. And she said, the way I became vegetarian is I was growing up on a farm, and I had about 20 different pets. And my favorite pet was a little calf. When I would go into the barn, this calf would run up to me and would cuddle up against me, and it was just so affectionate. I was like, wow, I've never had such an affectionate pet before. So she went out there, she said she went out there one day and the calf wasn't there. So they were having dinner, the family was having dinner that night, and she asked her father, I went out there in the barn and my calf wasn't there. Do you know where it is? He said, yeah, it's on your plate. And she was like, what? And she pushed it away, and she started crying. And she said, from that moment, I never ate meat again. Because people are eating meat, but they don't know that actually it could be a pet, So she was just horrified that her father had done that. So cows are very nice. And I think here at the manor, I think the cows are being treated probably better here than any other place I've been. I travel a lot. This is like 5-star hotel for the cows. So I'm sure Prabhupada and Krishna are very pleased. And Krishna is known as Govinda. He gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. So Krishna is very, very fond of the cows and the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, they live their life in a way to please Krishna, and actually even higher than the Brahmanas are the Vaishnavas, who completely give their life to Krishna. And there's an amazing example of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, of this great devotee, Ambarish Maharaj. We have this very important verse which explains the essence of devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam. So there was a devotee that was expert in each of these. So Shravanam was hearing, and who was the best at hearing? Parikshit Maharaj. Kirtanam, chanting, Sukadev Goswami, remembering, Prahlad Maharaj, Shravanam Kirtan, Smaranam Padasevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. I know you know. Who knows? Worshipping Lakshmi. Archanam, worshipping or offering prayers to the Lord. Offering prayers to the Lord. No, that was worshipping the Lord. Archana means worshipping the Lord. That was Pritu. And offering prayers, I know you know. Who else? Offering prayers, who? Akrura, which is kind of ironic because there's no one on the planet at that time that displeased the gopis more than Akrura, because he took Krishna out of Vrindavan. And they said, well, I don't know why your name is Akrura. Akrura means not cruel. Your name should be Krura. You've taken Krishna from Vrindavan. So it's kind of ironic. He's the most famous, the best at offering prayers to Krishna, but he displeased the gopis the most by taking Krishna out of Vrindavan. It's kind of interesting, huh? Very special personality. So Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, who was the best at serving Krishna? Anybody know? Besides these two stalwarts here? What? Who was it? Who was the best at serving? Hanuman, yes. Sakyam, who was the best friend? Arjuna. And surrendering everything? Bali Maharaj. But this Ambarish Maharaj, he is known, he's famous as being the best at all of them. And he was a king. Amazing, huh? I mean, you can't imagine how exalted this devotee was. He was so exalted that there was one period where he was doing a fast. And the time for breaking the fast had come, but then Durvasa Muni had come as a visitor, a guest. So Durvasa Muni said, I'm going to go bathe and I'll be back. But the time for breaking the fast had arrived, and if he didn't break it at this particular time, then he wouldn't get the merit for the austerity. So he asked the Brahmanas, what should I do? And they were all puzzled. They didn't know what to do. But because Ambarish Maharaj, he's a Vaishnava, which is above the Brahmanas, he knew what to do. If you take water, it's like breaking the fast and not breaking the fast. It's just water. He probably took a couple drops or something. But then Durvasa Muni comes, and by his mystic power, he was able to understand, you took water. That's offensive. And he considered it so offensive that he took a bunch of hair from his head, ripped it out of his head. I mean, God, that's intense, you know. And he threw it on the ground. This huge fire demon came up, and all the Brahmanas went running here and there, just everywhere, but not the Vaishnava. He just stood there like nothing happened, just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram. Like nothing's going on. And because he's such a great Vaishnava, the Sudarshan Chakra came and killed. And Sudarshan Chakra, he's pretty much like, it's fire. So the fire killed the fire. How does fire kill fire? Anyway, that happened. He'd burned the fire to ashes. And then the Sudarshan Chakra went after Ambarish Maharaj. Now the Sudarshan Chakra is quick. But this is like a special pastime. For a year, he's running away from this Sudarshan Chakra. He goes to Lord Shiva, sorry, I can't help you. Goes to Lord Brahma, nothing I can do. Your only hope, you have to go to Vishnu. This weapon belongs to Vishnu. So you got to go to Vishnu. He was able to enter into the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. Amazing pastime. He's trying to kill the greatest Vaishnava practically that ever lived, but he's able to go into Vaikuntha, which is, the only way we're going to get that one answered is when we go back to the spiritual world. We're going to have to ask Krishna, how'd that happen? So he went to Vaikuntha, and he pays obeisances to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, please, hopefully you can help me. I got this Sudarshan Chakra. He's on my back, and he's very hot, and he's trying to kill me. Can you maybe help me out here? Nothing I can do. Even Vishnu couldn't help him. Sadhavo hridyam mayam, sadhavo hridyam tvaham. He told Durvasa Muni. He said that the devotee is within my heart, and I am within the heart of the devotee. The devotee doesn't know anything but me, and I don't know anything but the devotee. You've offended a great Vaishnava. Sudarshan Chakra is going to chase you until you surrender to him. You got to go and ask for forgiveness. Oh, okay. So he went back. Ambarish is such a great Vaishnava, so hospitable and so austere, and has such amazing mystic potency. He hadn't eaten for that year. He's still waiting for his guest to come back. I guess he knew he's going to come back. Some mystic. He has this mystic ability also. So he's just waiting for him to come back. Durvasa Muni comes back, pays obeisance. He's Dandavats, please forgive me. I didn't know who you were. Please forgive me. And Ambarish Maharaj, no, it's okay. It's all right. Let's go take prasad. And he tells the Sudarshan Chakra, it's okay now. Everything's okay now. And he leaves. So this is a Vaishnava, so surrendered to Krishna, no fear. Srila Prabhupada there was an interview Prabhupada visiting one temple one city, and the interviewer asked Prabhupada, what do you get from this chanting? What is the result of chanting Hare Krishna? He said, I have no fear. No fear. And devotees also, as we continue on in devotional service, we become free of fear. There's another amazing pastime. Prabhupada was walking with some devotees in India, maybe about 10 devotees, and it's an open field, and they're walking chanting japa, and one car comes with some youth in it, and they're coming very fast towards the devotees, right towards the devotees. And it's kind of getting a little scary, what are these guys going to do? So one devotee just jumped up in front, and he said, if you're going to hit anybody, you're going to hit me before you hit Prabhupada. And then just before he hit this devotee, he turned off. And Prabhupada walked up next to this devotee. He said, very good. He was ready to die for Prabhupada. No fear. So this is a result of practicing Krishna consciousness. One becomes free of fear. But also we should have fear. Srila Prabhupada said, my disciples, they have two diseases. One is they are not enough afraid of Maya. We should have a firm fear of Maya, because Maya is heavy. And the other one is that we like to change things. When Prabhupada was here, there were so many ways there were devotees trying to change things. It's like there was one devotee that approached Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, this movement it's a very nice movement. And it could be huge. It could be a huge movement all over the world if we had only 3 regular principles instead of 4. If we could just change it to having no gambling, no intoxication, and no meat eating, and just stop there. And Prabhupada said, no. But Prabhupada, it could be huge. It would be huge. But this one regular principle it turns people off. No. Prabhupada said, I'm not interested in having many flickering stars. But if you can just get one moon, then my movement is a success. So still this devotee, he's pressuring Prabhupada. And finally Prabhupada said, if this is what you want, then you go out and you start your own movement. So then he understood, all right. Then he backed off. All right, that would be too much. So there's an example. Another example of changing things. When Prabhupada was here, it's happening a lot now, unfortunately. A devotee was leading kirtan, and he was chanting, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. And Prabhupada stopped him. He said, what is this? Who's Ramo? Who are you chanting to? Who's this Ramo? It's not Ramo. It's Rama. Okay. Now everywhere you go, it's like Ramo. Yeah. It's become an epidemic. You can't stop it now. So we should chant it properly. And devotees say, well, that comes out of Bangladesh, the Bengalis. Prabhupada's from Bengal. You'll never hear him. He never chanted Ramo. Always Rama. So this is another thing that we changed. So he said, this is our disease. We like to change things. And he said, this is why I'm traveling all over the world, to make sure that you stay in line, that you don't get out of line. So many ways they got out of line. So to stay on track, it's not an easy thing. So here also, Prabhupada mentions the Brahmanas. Krishna is very dear to the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas are very dear to Krishna. And there's another interesting pastime. Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and some of his disciples were going to the different temples. And they were at one temple, and the pujari saw the devotion of these devotees, Prabhupada's disciples. And after they took darshan, he said to them, you're showing so much devotion to the deities. In your next lifetime, you may become a Brahmana. So they went back and they told Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, you should have told them that you're worshiping the deity so nicely that you may become a book distributor in ISKCON in your next lifetime. So, a Brahmana is not interested just in worshiping the deity, but they're also very interested in giving Krishna to others. And therefore it's stated, Naivod Vijaya Paradaratjaya Vaitranyas Tvadvirya Gaina Mahamata Mignachitta. So Chetato Vimukacheta Sa Indriyartha Maya Sukhaya Bharamudvato Vimudhan. Prahlad Maharaj, just a young boy, 5 years old, but he's greater than any Brahmana. So he prayed to Lord Nrsingadev, I have no anxiety, no problem, because wherever I go, I'm hearing your glories. So what anxiety is there for me? Nothing. But I am concerned about all the unfortunate souls, the fallen souls who are just absorbed in Maya Sukhaya, this illusory happiness. So he's concerned, he's sad, he's unhappy to see their suffering. So this is very interesting, isn't it? Here's someone that's very happy and very sad at the same time. Very happy because he's Krishna conscious, and sad because he's seeing the suffering of the conditioned souls. So I was thinking about that, and I wondered if there's any example we have of that in ISKCON, of someone being very happy and very sad at the same time. And this thing came to mind of these devotees that were distributing books in Russia during the communist era, in Armenia. In Armenia, these devotees were so enthusiastic to spread Krishna's message that they were doing all kinds of illegal things. First, they had a printer. It was illegal to have a printer in Russia, in communist Russia, because they could print all kinds of what they would consider nonsense. So the devotees were printing out Prabhupada's books, and they were binding them, and then they were distributing them. But sometimes they would get caught distributing books, and they would be put in jail. And eventually it got so out of hand that they were looking for the devotees, and they would put them in jail, and sometimes they would beat them. So it was very austere, very austere. It was dangerous. So the leader of the group, the Sankirtan leader, he told the devotees, it's getting too hot here. It's getting too difficult. They're looking for you. Maybe if you go to mainland Russia, you can distribute books there, and it'll be easier because they're not looking for you. So they thought, oh yeah, good idea. So they flew up to some middle section of Russia, and they were distributing books. They would send the books up there, and then they would go down sometimes just to get more association of the devotees. So they were doing this for like maybe a couple months, back and forth. They would go in there and get books, and they would go back and get association. And one of them, his name was Sarvabhavana, and the other one I think was Sachi Sutta. It's in this book, Salted Bread. Anybody here read that book? It's an amazing book. Just to see the devotion of these devotees, just like astounding. So they were distributing books one day, and one of them didn't return. Sachi Sutta didn't return. So Sarvabhavana, he was in big anxiety because he wasn't just his best friend in ISKCON. They were best friends before they joined. And Sarvabhavana actually made him a devotee. He was like his Vartman Pradarshika guru. He showed him where the temple was. And he was completely into it. So Sarvabhavana's big anxiety, his best friend, was caught. He figured he must have been caught because they would always get there at the same time every day. So he's in big anxiety. And now he doesn't know what to do. He's got 110 Bhagavad Gitas left, so he doesn't know, should I should I go back with him or should I stay and distribute? And then he's in big anxiety about his friend. And he chanted his japa, and then he just got inspiration. Krishna wants me to distribute these books. So he went out with 10 Bhagavad Gitas to distribute. And he was approaching people, and then he saw one man coming with a beard, and he looked like a pleasant person. But then he thought he might be a Christian. But he thought, anyway, I'll approach. So he offered the Bhagavad Gita to him. And as soon as he saw the Bhagavad Gita, he said, "Oh, the Bhagavad Gita. I've heard of this book. I have a very good friend that's always recommending, if you ever see this book, read it." So he said, "Do you have more of these?" And then Sarabhavan got a little anxiety because he might be KGB. He was asking if I have more. He said, No, I have a lot of friends that are into this also. He said, Yeah, I have 10 here. I said, all right, can I buy all of them? He said, yeah. So he was a nice man. They were talking. And the man said, I don't live far from here. If you want, we could come and you could have lunch at my house. And he said, well, I'm vegetarian. He said, that's okay. I have a lot of vegetables. You can cook up something and we could have a nice lunch. And the devotee said, all right, let's go. So he went there and he cooked up some nice prasadam for this person. And they're talking, and he turns out to be like a really, really, really nice man. And what's really astounding is he was the main Christian priest for that area. But he was also interested in the Vedas, and he had a lot of friends that are also into this. So he said to this devotee, he said, is there anything else I can do for you? And he was thinking, well, I have 100 more Bhagavad Gitas. He said, well, can I take all of them? And Sarvabhavana said, well, I don't want them to just sit here in your house. No. I have a lot of people that are into this, a lot of friends that are really into this. I'll give them all to my friends. They'll all be read, no problem. And he said, well, all right, yeah, take them all. He gave a huge donation. This devotee probably has the record for one type of book being distributed to one person. 110 Bhagavad Gitas to one person. I think he might have the record still. Yeah. So he's very happy. All those books were distributed to one person, and they'll be distributed to many different people. So he was very happy about this. But he was sad at the same time because his friend was caught. So big anxiety. So he goes back to Armenia. And he goes to his apartment. And to get in the apartment, you have to know a certain code. Otherwise, it could be the KGB. So he knocked on the door with a certain code. And who opens the door? Sachi Sutta. He couldn't believe it. He was so happy. All of his unhappiness just went out the window. He was so happy to see Sachi Sutta. And they gave good, big, bear hugs. They were both so happy to see each other again. And then the first thing Sarvabhavan asked him is, what happened? What happened? He said, I was caught. KGB caught me. I was going to prison. There was 10 of us lined up. And we were going to the paddy wagon, they were going to put us in this, and they were going to take us to Siberia, to prison. And we were all walking, and the last person, he took off, running to escape. And there was 2 policemen, so one of them went running after him and caught him. But the person right behind me, he said, there's only 1 policeman here, and there's 9 of us. If you go running to the left as fast as you can, I go running to the right as fast as I can, what's he going to do? So as soon as I heard that, I took off running, and he took off running. And the cop, the policeman, he's cursing both of us. But we both escaped. So that was pretty. Book distribution could be a little adventurous sometimes. But there's nothing like that. So many devotees were distributing books in Russia. And I had an interesting experience. I was just in Poland, and one devotee was driving me to the airport, So I asked him, well, how did you join? He said, well, I joined during the communist era, 1982. I was at the university. I was at the university, and there was this book going around the university called the Ishopanishad. And this book had been read so much that it was falling apart. So I taped it together. And I could only have it for one night because there's 80 people that are waiting for this book. I was like, I can't believe I'm hearing this. So he read that, Ishopanishad, and he was studying philosophy. And he said when he read that Ishopanishad, it just like knocked everything else out. I mean, this was the most sublime philosophy I'd ever come across. And then a few weeks later, I found the Bhagavad Gita, which was also being read by, hundreds of people, so many people reading it, falling apart, and, 100 people in line to read that one. So this is how he became a devotee, from reading a book that had already been read by so many. He had one night to read it, and then he found the Bhagavad Gita. So that era, that communist era was a real special time. So many people were reading Prabhupada's books, even though it was underground. And so many people were joining underground also. And I've spoken to devotees that were preaching at that time in Russia, and they were so much more Krishna conscious because, they had to depend on Krishna. It was a real, Prabhupada said, spreading Krishna consciousness, we're declaring war on Maya. So it was really like that for them. They were on a battlefield, and they had to be very careful. And so many people joined. And then right after the communist era finished, they were distributing books, and people would line up. Like 100, sometimes 100 people would line up to buy Prabhupada's books, because there was nothing during the communist era. You couldn't buy anything. So then it opened up, and all of a sudden books were there immediately, because Brahma Muhurta, who was in charge of the BBT at the time, he heard that it was allowed to bring religious books into Russia. So he printed out 200,000 of Prabhupada's books. And there's a whole story, a whole pastime of how they got into Russia, because they weren't allowing them in. Whoever was in charge of the customs, they weren't allowing them in. So the devotees were having these big kirtans, and this one Mataji went in there and she started chastising them like anything. She said, what are you guys, living in the dinosaur times? Don't you know things have changed in Russia? Wake up! She was like super heavy. And then they were kind of like, oh, all right, no, all right, And then they finally let them through. So those 200,000 books made so many devotees, because it had just opened up, and so many people were. I mean, can you imagine you're at a book table and there's 100 people lined up and you're just distributing and taking money? Just unbelievable ecstasy. So, this is the nectar of book distribution. So devotees aren't interested in just being, Paka Brahmanas, but we're also interested in giving Krishna to others. Therefore it's stated, Suchi hoy, muchi hoy, yari Krishna jaje, muchi hoy, suchi hoy, yari Krishna bhaje. That one may be born into a very low family, but if he takes up Krishna consciousness, then he becomes Suchi. We may be born into a Muchi family, but by taking up Krishna consciousness and helping others also get this Krishna consciousness, one becomes Suchi. But one, on the other hand, one may be born into a very nice Paka family, Brahmana family, Suchi family, but doesn't have the qualities of a Brahmana, then he's not Suchi, he's Muchi. So we become Suchi by practicing Krishna consciousness. And we become especially suchi when we try to help others become suchi. There's a lot of suchi people out there, or muchi people. There's a lot of dirty people out there. We're also dirt, a lot of dirt there also. So by going out and giving Krishna to others, we become suchi. And those persons whom we distribute books to, they also become suchi. I had a nice experience recently in Australia. We have this big festival. It's called the Woodford Festival. And devotees go there and we camp out for 6 days and we distribute tons of prasadam. And even we have a huge tent and there's 20 or 25 tables. And it's just like, it's wonderful, just distributing prasadam all day long. And they set up a book table for me next to the restaurant. So people are coming and taking Bhagavad Gitas. I distributed about 50 Bhagavad Gitas every day. Just sitting at the table there. Really nice. So one person came to the table, and he was a young man. He was one of the volunteers there. If you volunteer, then you get in for free. So I was explaining to him the Bhagavad Gita, and what really caught his attention was this, excuse me, is this illustration we have of the 5 horses, the 5 senses, the intelligence, and people love that picture. Many times people buy the book just for that picture. And I distribute this at Bhagavad Gitas in universities in America. And I go to university one year and then I go back the next year. So I distributed Bhagavad Gita to one student, and the next year I saw him and he said, "You know that picture of the 5 horses and the senses?" And I said, yeah. That picture, it blew my mind. So I cut it out and I pasted it on the wall next to my bed. So that when I wake up in the morning, I know this is the situation. Yeah. So this student at Woodford, he also liked it, and he bought the Bhagavad Gita. And we have a farm, New Govardhan Farm, which is about 5 hours away from this festival. So we go to the farm, and lo and behold, he's there at the farm, practicing Krishna consciousness. His name is Jeev Jago. He had a different name before that. He used to make up names for himself. But he thought, well, now that I'm an awake soul, I'll just be called Jeev Jago. So now he's a brahmachari distributing books and doing Harinam, and it's a real nice feeling. You distribute books and you go back and somebody actually joins. It's like, yoo-hoo! It's like really nice. It's a nice experience. So book distribution is really good here. I don't know if you know, but book distribution in 2015 increased by 58% from 2014. So last year, you more than doubled what you did the previous year. And now Sutta said we're going to try to double this year what we did last year. So that'll be a big challenge for you. But you have a nice big congregation and nice temple devotees there, so Krishna may help you accomplish that. So is there any question or comment?